Hi everyone. Hope you're all well today. We're just waiting for the lovely Mandisa to join us. So if you are popping on to watch this after we've had the live, welcome. And I hope you enjoy the chat. As you can see, I'm all wrapped up as usual. It's freezing here in Hermanus. So here you are. Hi, babe. Let's get you. Let's hope we're not hit by load shedding randomly.
So please explain. Are you? Oh God. Okay. Is this what I need to do clearly? Because I'm on my iPad. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't get the memo.
Sorry, man.
How are you doing? Is this
I'm
light
good.
lit enough for you? Like putting this
Yeah, but
below
just
my face.
I needed to so I don't want your face behind the comments if possible. So check other way. No, other way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
There.
Better.
Goodness, these things. If I had a art director to direct this chat. Okay.
I'll
It's
change to
just
someone
because the light in
yesterday.
the background, bro.
No, you're fine. You're perfect.
Okay.
You're glowing.
You look like a snowman right about now.
I'm so cold. Me and Maggie are just like in bed, like half of our day. Just like work under my duvet.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Right.
Flip, I was saying to someone yesterday that all yogis, or I guess like maybe yogis or yoga teachers and like fitness instructors and everyone are now camera crew as well. So we can all actually just go into production.
Basically, the whole cast of everything. It's like, no, wait, sorry, wait. Lights. And go.
And film and sound and edit and upload online and like all of these things. It's actually, yeah,
We need to give
mental.
ourselves credit, right? Like a whole lot of it.
Yeah. Like whatever you're doing right now, is maybe not enough for your like ambitious self. But I think like if we took into consideration everything that's happened, like if we go like a global pandemic has hit me, then giving yourself a little bit of leeway is important.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. Yeah.
But I know
Well,
you you
decided to.
you're just as hard on yourself as I am on myself.
That's why we're in the healing space. You. What do they say? Basically, I'm saying it, not they. You teach what you need to preach yourself.
as they say, as Mandisa says.
As I say, you need to preach what you teach yourself. So it becomes like a mirror. That's why we're in yoga. So
100%,
just need to
babe.
take a deep breath. What does the dealer always say? Let's center ourselves and be in the room. I feel like I'm
Well,
everywhere I
let's
might be doing this right now.
let's center ourselves. Do you want to just do a little
I
2-minute opening for us?
I would love to. Yeah, because
Okay,
I
let's
need
do
one
that.
myself. Do you see? Do you see what I mean? Okay.
Okay.
Oh, goodness, just close your eyes. That's the most important thing. And just take a deep breath. And then what you can do is I'm going to be uncomfortable and comfortable at the same time. Just blurt out a sound through the exhalation 3 times. Take a deep breath. And then 2. And the last one. I actually did this thing this morning with a client, so let's actually do this. It's just place your hand onto your chest and one on your belly. And then just place your hand where you feel your heart beats. and just create a little bit of a circle. Like, you know, when someone comforts you, or your mom when you used to cry, or you just felt like, oh my God, I just need to be in someone's arms. Just kind of like, it's okay, right here where I am. It's just like comforting gesture. And then your belly near your gut is, it always serves you, and just rub on that, on your pot belly. And then just placing both hands comfortably, just affirming to yourself, I am here right now in my body, I am present. And I guess the whole practice is really being in your body and getting out of your head. So just taking a few breaths to do that. And then when you're ready to chat to me, you can open your eyes.
Thanks, lovely.
Oh, okay, I can breathe.
I'm always ready to chat to you.
Yeah. Oh
Well, I think, yeah, let's start first things first. I think, so whoever doesn't know you, maybe just give a bit of background. I sent Mandisa a few questions beforehand just to spark some little neural pathways before we went into the chat. So just a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, yeah, a little more about you, where you're from.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, who I thought I was constantly changes. So I'll give you like my, you know, the self that I sort of created a story around to introduce myself to others. So I'm a Durbanite. You know, you always meet people in Cape Town who either from Durban mostly, and are from, you know, Joburg or outside of the world. Are you from, just a quick one, you are from Cape Town, right? Okay, so you're one of those that I know from Cape Town. So I actually grew up predominantly, I was born in Durban, but I grew up in Dundee. And when people ask me, they're like, Dundee, where's that? I'm like, all the way near Newcastle, Ladysmith, that's where it is. It's like small town vibes, you know? And I think with my family, like in terms of my upbringing, like I've always been that girl who's a little bit different, you know, who doesn't necessarily follow like a typical path, who doesn't necessarily do the typical things, you know, someone who's in a certain culture or a certain age group would do. I guess I was always feeling like there was a different calling towards healing and changing the world. You know, you always want to be that hero in the cape, and it's like which one represents you best. And I think I'm still finding that out, but I guess it's like the yogini cape. I think everyone who's a yoga teacher actually needs a cape, you know, that just says, we're here to heal, and like, you know, just extend it out into the world. I then went to high school in Durban and varsity in Durban, and decided I need to come to Cape Town for like a year. And in that transition, while thinking that I'm going to like level up with what I was doing, because I studied civil engineering, I thought maybe, you know, let me go into water engineering because I used to swim. That was my thought process. I was like, it's gotta be the same thing, right? What is it? It's water? So that was that. And then I guess I came to Joburg thinking that it was gonna be like easy to get a job, because, you know, they say they give you your whole dynamic, like young black female, and it's like you're gonna get a job instantly, like just today, tomorrow you're gonna get it. And I think it took like 7 months, and then I still only worked up at Virgin Active. So I was like, what the you know. So I've always kind of thought like there's life, and then there's plans, and then there's beauty in between. And I guess the beauty was me actually really realizing that this has got to be something more than just, you know, acquiring knowledge all the time, and then also acquiring knowledge that wasn't necessarily serving me, or wasn't going to serve me in the future, you know. And then I got into a consulting company. So I moved back to Durban, got into a consulting company, and then moved back to Pretoria. I was like, I'm out of here. I got to go. And I was just, when there's just something that's just like something, there's got to be more, there's got to be more, there's got to be more. And it became that like typical lifestyle at the time for me. It felt very draining because it was like, I only used to live like 8 kilometers away from work. And that 8 kilometers felt like it took forever to get ready to get to. You know, I would literally start waking up at like 5 to 8 when work started. And then I was like, okay, something's wrong, you know. And then I found yoga. And I was like, I watched this video, and I think when people ask me like, what's your story? How did you get into it and everything? And I think the biggest thing for me, when I saw this guy get healed from yoga, I cried. There was just this like, oh my God, this is it. This is this moment of, this is what I need, let me not speak for others, and what I think the world needs. And I went to my first yoga class the next day. And I just remember we're doing all these like acrobatic like arm balances, and I couldn't do like half the things. I was just like, oh, this is fun. This is acrobatics, like gymnastics. I'm like, what is this? This is wonderful. And I just remember thinking to myself afterwards, because then you're like drenched with sweat, right? And you just like, I was like dripping, and I was like, I'm dripping like I've been running on the treadmill for like 30 minutes. And I've just been doing a yoga class on the ground for an hour, you know, and I was like dripping. And then at the time, unfortunately, or fortunately, the teacher, who was more of a gym sort of yoga teacher, didn't really hold us in Shavasana for a while. I think it would have added so much more value, but I needed that at that time. So it was perfect, because then I wanted more. Because I think if she had kind of like just given me the whole package, I think I would have just been like, oh, okay, this is nice. But then something was like, this is it, you know? And I think from there, there's always like, there's something more, and there's something more calling me to dive into yoga. And as much as I teach, I'm more a student, funny enough, because like I'm learning so much from, you know, I read a lot and I research a lot of stuff just in terms of like the healing, the mind, the body, just the human being really. And it's such a fascinating process. And for me, it's like all my creativity just gets to be on this, like, what is it, 1.8 meter mat times however length, and all the magic just like really, really happens there. You know what I mean? And I think what I found, that I guess the challenge is being able to integrate what magic happens on the mat and then taking it into my daily life, because daily life requires you to pay bills, and daily life requires you that, you know, you stop at the robots versus, you know, you want to be a unicorn instead, you know, it's that kind of stuff. So it's being able to integrate that from the magic that happens on your mat to creating magic through what system life has created in order for us to sort of like thrive, survive. I don't know, it depends on what you take on it. And yeah, I think for me, that's the journey, and that's becoming the student. The student is the integration.
Yeah, I mean, I think something you said really stood out to me now was that you were really drawn to the physicality of yoga, right? Which I think most people at this point in the world, no, I wouldn't say most. Okay, let's go with maybe a minority of people in the world know what yoga is really about.
Yeah.
Yet, and I think for a lot of people in the Western world, that physical practice is the doorway. And that's how I found yoga as well. I was like, I'm gonna go sweat, and I'm gonna like, you know, even though like I actually didn't really really much enjoy that in a yoga class. You know, I'm not someone who likes to be in a gym with people like trying to like, I don't know, like do whatever they're doing. It's a bit much for me, no judgment, but I just like, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I did go to those physical classes, the asana classes, as a beginner. And I think almost like if you had to throw me in, for instance, straight into like the Charlotte teacher training, I would have been like,
The shift here.
that's a bit intense for me. Like, I think it would be overwhelming.
Yeah. No, that's
And so
true.
you just also to skip back a little bit, something that kind of came to mind when you said that you're going to kind of tell us who you thought you were showing the world. And just if you don't mind sharing a little more about your cultural background, about your like growing up,
Yeah.
because I always think that that's so it's so fascinating to know that part of someone's life. So many things are formed in our childhood that really, I think, in these older years, in our 30s, and being practitioners, we only start to see those things now.
Yeah. So I'm Zulu, and culturally, my dad, like you gotta think my dad is 81. I don't want to like say anything like mean. It's not being mean. It's just being honest. It's like he
Well, that's his
could
age.
technically be my grandfather. You know what I mean? So it's like I
I
don't
don't
want to be
care
mean. I
how
love
old
my
he
dad.
is, he brought you into this world.
So it's like he's at that age where he sort of plays both roles. So he, both my mom and my dad grew up in like the Zulu culture where it was like there's a sense of respect your elders. It's like do as you're told, and you kind of think from that generation, and it's like you got to work hard, and then you got to like struggle. Like if you don't struggle, then it's not necessarily worth the joy. And sometimes the joy of what you've like worked for is like a minute sometimes, and you're like, oh my god, And I think besides my actual like African ancestry, and then my being Zulu as well, there's also like a culture that doesn't necessarily or hasn't learned about the culture of celebrating, the good things. So that's why it's like and it's not necessarily a culture because of your race. There's also a culture within society that's like you have to be goal oriented, and then it's like once you reach a goal, there's very little room to be able to celebrate, and you just got to jump onto the next thing very quickly, and then it's just this treadmill thing. So what's interesting now to be able to see the practice with yoga and to be able to learn how meditation teaches you to observe, because it's not yoga unless you're observing, right? It's just physical movements. But unless you're kind of removing yourself from yourself and taking this mirror image and being like, I'm here right now. What do I feel? What do I see? What am I observing? Who am I? Why am I? How am I? All those things. And I mean, you don't have to necessarily go in that kind of sequence. You could choose one question. It's like, who am I? Or why am I today? Why am I? Why am I? So I think there's so many cultures within a culture. That is just like, it's to say like which one overrides the other, right? Because I've created my own culture from the different aspects of things that I've kind of learned along the way. Like the array of friendships that I have are completely different, and there's so many different cultures that are there. And then there's a culture within the home, then there's a culture because of your race. You know where I'm getting at, right? So it's a challenging one, but I think the main one, because like I said in the beginning, is that I was very different, or I am very different. I'm that challenge child. Like, I'm gonna challenge you. Like, I'm gonna be the lawyer. Like, excuse me, so prove your case. Tell me why. But why? But why? So I think I might not be the best sort of representation, because I've kind of really, I've done this, I haven't done that. I've like, if there's
That makes
like
you
a
the best
little, yeah,
representation.
yeah, then maybe, but it's just like, um, yeah, there's still obviously there's conditioning, and it's like, where does the conditioning come from? And I guess the conditioning comes a lot from what we see, what we hear, because they say you gotta like feed your soul, but like, what are you feeding yourself? And it's not only food, but it's like food for thought, food for vision, food for sound, food for smell, like that kind of thing. There's always types of food that you're giving yourself. And I think it's for me, it's like being able to pay attention to that on a deeper level, I guess.
I'm
Yeah.
going to use that as a segue, just because I think it's so beautiful of you highlighting that since you were very young, you've always questioned everything. And I think to me, that is like one of the biggest keys to any kind of growth, is that you never stop questioning.
Yeah.
I guess, a practice like yoga, or going into any of these kinds of trainings, any of the kind of trainings you've done, which I know you've done quite a few, are not the average scientific, here's the answer in the book kind of work, which is interesting because it's almost as though none of that work that you're doing has concrete answers.
Yeah.
But it's more like, and I always use this term that I think I got it from Thomas.
Yeah.
It is scientifically unproven, but experientially true. And that we
But please
really
repeat that
stop.
again.
It is scientifically unproven, but experientially true.
I love that.
And so you find the truth within yourself, and it's not a place of knowledge, but it's not a place of intellect. It's a place of deep knowledge, of knowing, of embodiment. And so, yeah, like I said, like, let's use that segue to kind of go into the studies that you've done, your yoga teacher training, and how that led you to creating your brands, to creating your
Yeah.
business.
I think, like, it's such an interesting thing because life is like cyclic, it just keeps going on, and it feels like this little swirl that keeps digging in and going smaller and smaller and smaller until you kind of get to the root or the seed of what actually seeded your existence, really. I kind of like look at it from that point of view. So I did my 200-hour training with Yoga Warrior in Joburg, and I mean, I went in with the eyes of innately knowing within my full, truest self that I needed to be a teacher, or I was going to be a teacher. Don't ask me from where. I'd only been doing yoga for 3 months, but something, because I was questioning and I questioned without expectation of needing an answer like directly. And I think that kind of led me into moving in my training with eyes from a teacher's perspective, but still a student. So the words that I was grabbing, somehow, I guess I was learning in the way a teacher would be able to articulate those certain things that we were learning as a student. So now, only how many years? I mean, I've done other forms of training with mindfulness and my access bars and whatever. That's completely different. Well, it's part and parcel of like yoga.
What is the access bars?
So access bars is like certain points in your head. It goes like deeper, but it's being able to access. I wrote it down yesterday because I needed to like kind of like create this like portal. But it's basically allowing yourself. There's certain points in your head around the crown and the body that allow you to pull energy and to create a clear path. It's sort of like a reset button, and then it allows you to not live your life through judgment. So it's living your life in a form of, or it gives you the tools to live your life through the point of how are you making a contribution. And even showing up on your mat, I've just been thinking about it lately, is making such a huge contribution to the world that we might not actually see by even just coming there and just sitting and working on your breath is like such a huge contribution. So it makes it less individual and more expansive. And I think I've been saying lately as well about it's not your soul and your body, it's your body and your soul. And I don't know, somehow that just makes me able to breathe a little bit more. Like my breath is like I feel like I can breathe a little bit more just by saying that. So that's what the access bars is, just being able to consciously observe your life without judgment. And it just gives you tools to remove the root. So it's a constant work. It's like yoga, but it's like moving the constant root of the judgment. And where was that judgment seated? Who was it? Like, does it belong to? Is it yours? Or is it someone else's and like sort of idea about who you need to be and what you are thinking about? So then, injuries are also like a big teacher. When you get an injury, especially as a yoga teacher, that's like your soul, that's your bread and your butter. It's like when an injury comes, you're always thinking like, you have all these like, oh mother, beep, 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 beep. Like, there's so many beep beeps that you can't really say. And I think there was like a shift for me to just shift it as to what is it actually here to teach me. Because like my body only realizing a couple of years later is that I'm hypermobile, and thinking that I was flexible and thinking that I could use that as a point of reference to gain flexibility. So I would be able to easily get into like a posture or whatever. And then someone would be like, oh my God, how do you get so flexible? And I'm like, actually, it hurts.
I was born that way.
Maybe I was born. No, but now it's like it actually hurts. So now it's being able to pull back. And I think that's where Meoja came about, as just like, it's being able to not have massive sort of classes, and it's very intuitive because it's individualized, it's personal, it's more for between me and you, and it's me helping you, and you helping me at the same time to be able to develop the knowledge that is for your body. Sometimes with yoga people think that it's like it becomes generic, specifically in the West, and I think that's where the beauty of having a guru came from. But I think because people started kind of idolizing that's where there becomes a negative connotation. But it's someone who has gone through an injury. I think of like a guru. I mean, first and foremost, I think guru means G, you are you. It's like silly as that sounds, but it's like G, you are you don't need me. That, like, yeah. And I think the injuries kind of taught me more and has helped me slow down, and not only slow down on my mat but in my life, although I think it does. Rolls eyes. Yeah, so
and so
yeah,
what is, if you had to put, you pronounce it Meoja.
Meoja. So Oja in Swahili means to move, and because I just wanted to call it Oja, which just means to move, and
That's beautiful.
me is like a play on French, because someone take me to Paris, please. Like, I studied French in school, so I'm like, can someone just get me
Anyone
a ticket?
watching this video?
Anyone watching, please sponsor a ticket. And I think that's where it came from. So I think for me, I actually wrote this down because it's interesting how when you seed something, you don't know what plant you're actually seeding sometimes, and then you come back in years later, and then it comes back and you're like, oh my God, that's what it is. So this is what it is. I have to write it down because it's like I actually have to really understand it like fully.
Yeah.
So it's intuitive body treatments engineered to reconnect you to your mind, your body, and your soul. I'll repeat that. Intuitive body treatments engineered to reconnect you to your mind, your body, and your soul. And, just looking at the correlation between like civil engineering and yoga, my God, when life says there's so much synchronicity, there is so much synchronicity. Because if you look at engineering or civil engineering, you're building, right? And before a building is actually sort of the inception of it. There needs to be a creative image. So that's like your sequencing, right? That's like a sequencing of where you could possibly take the body or whatever. And then there's a foundation. And the foundation is like the earth. It's like rooting yourself, figuring out like your past history, figuring out your foundation, like what actually brought you here and what do you actually want? What vision do you have within your yoga? Like, is it something for a lifestyle? Is it something because it's a trend? Is it something because you're trying to lose weight? Is it something because you want to build muscle? Do you want to play? You know, the list goes on and on and on. And I think that for me was like such a key connector to say that this is engineering. So now I call myself a holistic engineer.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, so now I'm just
not
like,
many people I know who can say that either.
So yeah, guys, if you need a holistic engineer,
you need a holistic everyone needs a holistic engineer.
Yeah, so that's what it is. And I think, you know, it's like coming into it and just seeing the cycle from where you began from that little seed and you don't know why that idea came. And then all of a sudden you experience why it came. And then you go back and you're like, eureka. But the thing is, it takes years sometimes or months. And I think I'm learning self-compassion, patience.
Important one. And so, on that note, actually, as that compassion, which is obviously a self-care tool, much bigger than that.
Leading into your questions so easily, huh?
You think I'm guiding you, girl?
So yoga practice.
It just works naturally. Like, I've had the best chats with people. I'm like, I feel like you're reading my mind and I'm reading your mind and you're reading my mind, and then it just works like well.
Yeah.
So self-care. It's something I ask everyone. I think it's something that's really important right now. And if, you know, when I pick up one little self-care tip from someone and it really works, I'm like forever grateful for that, because it's then something that really helps me to get through everything. So share with us, please. I know you do a lot of this kind of stuff. I know you do a lot of self-practice. I know that you cook really well for yourself. You invest a lot into your food and what you put in your body. So yeah, take it away.
So I think for me, because, you know, like how we spoke about, like the first sort of gate into yoga, a lot of entry for people is through the physical practice. And then it's like, actually, no, yoga is a way of life. So it's the way you think, the way you breathe, the way you eat, the way you dance, the way you kind of have that like je ne sais quoi about life, right? You just kind of like, oof, yes, dancing, like, you know. And it's kind of like the Eat, Pray, Love movie. It's just like, what do I want to taste? Actually, let me just dive into that. Let me go to the country. What language do I want to learn? And it's just like going into that. It's really immersing yourself deeply. So for me, I actually wrote down a list. What I did was, what do I love to do? So I would literally ask myself in like third person, like, what does Mandisa love to do? So I just wrote down all these like things. And I think the key things for me is yoga. I mean, my self-practice is like my juiciest moments of life. Like, no one can take that away from me. And I think that's why maybe sometimes being able to have the space with another teacher becomes slightly challenging, just purely because for me, I just know the juice my body needs. And I know when it needs it, how it needs it, why it needs it, what music, what elements, and all I do for me, because it's like a prayer, right? It's like a moving meditation. And I think I've been just gifted with yoga, and there's so many elements around that. And then there's the meditation, so key. I'm like, what? Kids need to learn this stuff. Like, meditation is like the key. You know, it's like literally, like, no jokes. It's like one of the best things. And I think ultimately, you know, we're trying to get to the breath, just to the connection of the breath. That's it. So if dancing is connection to breath for you, if cooking is connection to breath for you, if writing, if reading, if sleeping, if like having multiple showers, if there's access for you in a day, just makes you feel good, that's what you need to do. So I think it shifts according to season, and it shifts according to my hormones, which is also a season, you know. So
it's like 20 seasons of that.
Yeah, there's 20 seasons in one day. Like, there's so many. And I think sometimes it's like just watching a movie, Netflixing and chilling. Like, I really give myself like grace. I don't judge myself for that, because I'm just like, you know what? Effortless effort. Like I'm pulling back right now. So I would say for me, it's like the typical things for me. You're guaranteed to always see me there if you don't get a hold of me. Is like sunsets. That's a form of meditation. Meditation, seated or moving physically. Cooking. I really enjoy cooking for others. Don't get ideas, anyone. Do not ask me like.
Well,
but I love
if I take you to Paris, then expect some cooking.
Well, if you take me to Paris, like, you know, I could serve you breakfast, lunch, dinner. Like, what do you want? And I think like nature, going to who I feel at my truest self. So I kind of center my lifestyle around nature, around community, good friends and company, expanding within my greatness and my knowledge and like who I am, and really immersing myself to get deeper. And like once I think I know who I am, I realize I really don't. And there's a obviously sometimes a fear around that, because sometimes you want some form of stability and some consistency, and then realizing the only thing constant is change. So that's where my grace kind of comes in most of the time. I mean, I even have a plant called Grace. Like, she sits there yeah. So when I look at her, I'm like, hey, Grace. Thank you, Grace. Like, all my plants in the house, I've like named them things, so like when I see them, I speak to them. And it's like speaking to me. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually heard something the other day. Well, I read it on Instagram. Actually, I'm like, I can't remember I can't credit the person for this, but basically the post said you should name your plants after yourself, so that all your plants are Kathleen. And every time something's
there's a
wrong,
question here. Yeah.
It's
What's your take on I am meditation?
on I am meditation. Don't know if I've heard of that.
I mean, yeah. No, is that like is Lala? Is that like a what do you want to call it? Is it a
like an affirmation?
Is it an affirmation? Because I think, just to answer quickly, it was just to say that I think chanting I am when you meditate. Oh, sorry. Of course. Powerful. Absolutely powerful. All the time. Yeah. All the time. Because you are. Yeah. I thought you meant as in you are chanting I am meditation. That's how I was like confused for a hot sec. I was like, huh?
Well, we are meditation. That would be the ultimate, right?
No, that is true. But you're still continuing with your statement there, Boom.
Oh, I just wanted to say, so it's either, I think it's so beautiful that you give
your plants
the different names, but then also the thing I read that said you must name your plants after yourself, so that every time you water them and every time you care for them and every time they look like they're needing some nourishment or love, it's a reminder for you to give that to yourself.
Can I actually tell you the names that I have?
Please do. You have to tell me.
So I bought, I think, so there's like 5 plants in the house, right? I've started adulting a little bit. I'll only show you this one. This one's gorgeous one. I mean, she's just gorgeous. So, like, what I'll do is, like, when I take care of her, I'm like, oh my God, gorgeous, how are you doing? You know? And I mean, she's just pretty. She's like, look at that.
She is
Pretty.
gorgeous
Gorgeous.
and lush.
And then I know this light is weird, but and it's so interesting with this like succulent.
Is
I
that a
call
spec word?
him, babe, it's like a succulent. I forgot
Oh,
what
no,
it's
okay.
called. But the way in which it sucks things, it's called Tinisolam, which means my truth. So it's a he, weirdly enough, because he holds my truth
I
and
love
the truth of it
that.
all. So it's like, I'll just be like, sometimes when I really need to speak my truth, actually it's a reminder for me to do that today. just go speak to him and be like,
I'll be like, you gotta listen here, dude. I got some things I need to tell you.
And then there's grace, and then there's ego, as a money plant, which means cash in Nigeria. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, give me that.
And do you have a coin planted into the money plants?
No, I don't. Should I put
Because
coins?
that's quite a traditional. I'm not sure exactly from which African culture it's from. My friend actually told me, Christy, said
Really?
that you actually plant a coin in the soil of your money plants. And as the plant grows, you manifest that kind of that wealth, monetary wealth in your life.
Like $100. So 10
I'm gonna
times double.
like it's just gonna be like dollars in the soil.
Dollar.
Put some lotto tickets in there.
Oh God. Yeah, and then another one is nurture her.
Oh, beautiful. That's a special one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that one was, and she's in my room, and it's just a reminder, although she's like kind of dying. I need to like.
You can't water the money plant before nurture her.
I mean, it's such a thing. It's such a thing because obviously, that's something where I need to give myself the most. Because as healers, we always give and give and give and give and giving. But to receive and to give what we need, that is work.
Absolutely. But while we were talking on the note of abundance,
Yeah.
my final question for you was, and it always is in these interviews, is if you could make one thing abundant in the world, what would it be and why?
Oh, there's so many things, but I mean, there's so many things. I know you said one, but can I like mention two? And I think for me, the first one is love, because so much flows from that word. And I think why love is because to really know what love is such a gift. And each time it is expanded upon on a level, and there's like so many teachings that talk about being unconditional. And I wish we could have, as humans, unconditional love, because I think we have conditioned love and not unconditional. There's this saying or a story that says, the person who understands this will understand life. It says, when you like a flower, you'll pick it up. And when you love a flower, you'll let it be. And I only, literally, got it this year. So I think unconditional love for me has now meant transcending the laws of society, transcending your conditioning, transcending the physical body, and really being who you really are. That, to me,
Make me like burst into tears, yeah, girl.
No, but
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing, and it's me immersing myself on what does unconditional love mean. It's it's not taking a thing, it's not taking a person and putting them into my environment, because that's where they're going to die. It's me going into theirs and seeing where they flourish, you know. And it's been such a, I have to breathe. You have to like breathe a lot. And that's where the meditation helps you to really see even the person on the street and see them with love, and just to say that's just an avatar in a certain uniform that they've put on, but they are love. At their best, they are love. And I've just been trying to meditate on what is unconditional love, and just and love. And I think the other one would be is to let people feel, to allow themselves to feel again, because that's what's the first language we were given before we could speak, right? And I think that for me is life. And I think that's my next journey of discovering unconditional love and immersing myself into feeling. And it goes back into the unconditional, because feeling for what it is and not what I want it to be, because of my past, because what if someone said it needed to be, or because of what it needs to be. And it's just feeling it for its truest feeling now. Those are my things I think the world needs like the most. And I think there was a comment, I don't even know if I can. Oh, I have 2 aloe plants that I love so dearly. I always talk to them in the morning. I think they know I love them. I kiss them even through them. That made me so like smile. Thanks, Lana. I love that. Yeah.
Oh, so thank you everyone for joining in, and even if you're catching up. Mandisa, I said it to you today as well, you make my life. Honestly, my life would be a much darker place without you. Even though you're sunshine and you're a flippant pot of laughter and you are so light, you are also, you're so full of knowledge and you're so embodied in that. And you're so vulnerable and open to sharing. Your honesty just inspires me every day. So yeah, I think before we hop off, because I think we're going to be cut off soon as well.
Yeah. I love this platform, by the way, that you're using to do this.
Cool. Thanks, babe. I mean, it's just like, I was like, I know all these amazing people that my people don't know. They need to know them and they need to connect. And there's been like the coolest connections, and just like, yeah, it's just, I need people to know like who I know, because you've all changed my life, you know. That's the big thing. But if people want more of you, where do they find you? More of you. Or they want to take you to Paris. How do they get hold of you?
Oh, okay. So if you want to like give me a ticket to Paris, my ID number is 900. No, you can get through to me on email, mandisa@yogafitness.co.za, and then obviously Meoja on Instagram, and you can slide into my DMs.
Slide into her DMs, guys.
Silver like a snake.
Slide. If you got any questions about moving, about yoga, about breath, about meditation.
I've also added, you will love this one, sensual movement. I cannot wait to start.
But I have still not gone dancing with you. I have to still.
Now that you're stuck in that,
we're not really allowed to touch people, so when's that?
I even had to, well, 50 packs is allowed.
With like no social distancing.
Babes, 50 packs.
So we can.
You can suki.
Girl, I know you can soki, but I know that you can salsa better than your soki.
That's true. But thank you so
Oh,
much. I
thank
mean,
you,
you know,
babe.
I had to keep it as profesh
Well,
as.
I'm very proud of us because this is like the most professional conversation
I
we've
know,
ever
that's
had.
what I'm thinking. I'm like, so if anyone thinking this is whack, well, sorry for you.
No, this ain't whack. You're amazing, and I know you're busy,
Thank
so thank you for
you.
taking the time out of your
I love
day. I
you.
think,
Unconditionally.
no. What's that?
Unconditional.
Unconditional. What is that song?
I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Unconditionally.
Unconditional
No, there's
love.
actually a song. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna send it to you.
Oh, and
Okay.
singing is also a very nice thing. Just
Singing is. I sing in my car all the time.
like shrug a
Yeah.
shoulder. Mm, mm, mm.
Okay.
Oh my
I'm
god,
gonna
I love
roll
you,
on
Kiki
out of. I'm
Flakes.
gonna slide on out of here. I love you so much, and you
I
make the
love
world a
you.
better
Thank
place. Thank
you.
you for doing what you do and for,
Thank
yeah,
you.
doing so much for everyone else. Make sure that you go and look at that little plant in your room now and look at yourself and go for that self-care, hey?
The light in me sees the light in you. I love you.
I love you lots, babe. I'll
Catch
chat
it.
to you
You're supposed to catch it.
soon. Catch it.
Love you, folks.
Love you. Mama
Mwah.
Bok Bok. Bye.
Bye.